I agree that parking is definitely an issue for patrons. You know, they want to be close, be able to park really close to the library. They definitely like being able to go right over to Wade Park. So, you know, I see a lot of people as they're checking out and leaving the library turning to their kids and be like, okay, ready to go to the park. Like, we hear that multiple times every day. So I do really like the mayor's plan for that reason, keeping it really close to the park. But I also can definitely see the benefits of the other plans as well, increasing parking, and I think they're all really good options.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, she's smart. Jamie, how about you? What excites you? What doesn't about these?
Well, I agree with what Mr. Parker said about leaving First Avenue open. And, you know, although we haven't had anybody say, I want to buy the planning department building today, having those buildings open and available for development really, it really does up our ante in the downtown. If you look around what we have available space right now, we were just talking that we don't have hardly anything. So having that space open, making it available for development could be awesome. You know, expanding, I like all of the options. I like the Second Street option. One of my hats that I wear is parking task force staff person. And, you know, any project, any city, any business might say that they need more parking. Putting it down there will at least give the option for more parking. That's my route to work every day. So I drive down that little road down 3rd. There is parking available there, and then you also have the public parking lot on top of it. So I do like that space, but having shared meeting space could also be good. You know, maybe that gives city staff and library more opportunities to work together in different projects, you know, especially we're community related, you're community related, you know, maybe that makes it a better fit, but I think
Renata?
I like all of the options. I like the idea that we're talking about second or even third story and combined space. I think having the public be able to come to one building for a variety of their civic needs just makes a lot of sense. The Second Street, you already have the appearance of 2 stories with the theater, with Cuts Horse, and even the former Columbia Bank building. So having 2 stories on that side continues that and really raises the bar high and will start driving higher quality development toward the east, as Commissioner Parker has said. The block that we have here between 1st and 2nd and Holly and Ivy is prime and for redevelopment and over time, and since the bulk of it is in public ownership, over time in the long term could be redeveloped very nicely, higher density, more job creation, more retail, more of that economic driver that we really want in our town.
Thanks, President. I'd like to also state that going on 2nd Avenue across Ivy, I think it gives us the largest footprint, gives us the most square footage, and we'd have much more room for council chamber, for city civic room, for different places for people to meet and that. And if we're going to give this up, then we do need to have a, you know, and we were looking at in the previous, the first one we were talking about on the city hall, making it so much larger to have much more footage for people to come and participate. And I think that would be the best for me to, for our total square footage.
Yeah, let me second that. That my main interest in City Hall is restoring it to its historical integrity and not trying to squeeze as much into it as we can. That I'd like to shave off this and shave off the other add-ons And that's my only concern, is just, this is a 75th anniversary of this building. It would be great to have it restored. I don't think we need to really put it into heavy-duty use here by having it as an auditorium and that sort of thing, that, in fact, it would probably be cheaper to build a new council chamber and than to try and retrofit a 75-year-old building, so.
Agreed. Jamie?
One other thing that I thought about is, one thing that we talk about a lot is the walkability of the downtown, and also what an influx of cycling that we've seen. There's no doubt that Waite Park is a draw. The library is a draw. City Hall is a draw. Cutsforce is. So, you know, if you, I hate to use this example, but if you think about the downtown like you would a shopping mall, if you're walking from Macy's, or if you want to go from Macy's to JCPenney, you walk through the mall, and you might see, you know, a cute hat that you want to buy here, you might see something else there. So stretching those anchors out, if you want to use that word, and people will go to Waite Park to let their kids play after they go to the library. But what if they walk a little bit further and they say the place to be, or some new cute little hat shop that goes in where the planning department is? I think it kind of ups the, really, she likes hats.
Just for instance.
It's really cold. I'm getting Jenny a hat.
Just for instance.
But, you know,
That's a good point.
it really kind of ups our ante as being pedestrian friendly, giving people reasons to walk throughout our downtown, or even cycle.
Jamie and I heard that at the National Main Street Conference last year, and this was right on the heels of us doing First Avenue, where we heard from a number of business owners that said we want people to be able to park right in front of us. And what we heard from urban planners is that you want people to not always have to park right in front. You want them to park at another store and to be able to walk back and forth. And so from a modern urban planning standpoint of having some of your anchors more than a block apart, it will give a walking exposure to the businesses between the two instead of just clustering it in one place.
Haley, you're still here.
I am still here.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I really like that point, and it's only 2.5 blocks.
Which in July will be fine. January, not so much. But
Yeah, I say that, and then I complain about walking from City Hall to my office, so you never know. My feet are cold. Okay. I love the
Sorry.
idea of the executive space, which I think you could retain in any of these options as a potential revenue source for operations for the library or a different city need. I wanted to point out the property value exchange potential with the Second Street option. It has a bigger square footage, but right now, being those houses have a very low property value, so putting a civic center there and then returning the really high commercial property value to the tax rolls will have a much bigger effect, I believe. I think that you, with all those properties that would be freed up, you'll have potential property sales that will generate revenue for the city to either fund the project that we're doing or fund other city operations. I like the idea of really retaining the city hall. I would hope that maybe you could look at keeping some of the plans from the Second Street option and turning the city hall back into the chambers, because that really seemed really classic piece of that plan. So I don't know if any of that could be retained from the work that was already done.
That's right, it was all engineered out.
And for me, the biggest thing is the one customer service center and making this a civic center, getting all of city operations into one place and having one customer service center, so that I really think you would get customer service efficiencies, as well as which will reduce operating costs as far as people and just providing better service to the citizens. So that's key for me. And with the bigger footprint, you can probably retain the higher ceilings, have some atriums, and some of those aspects that people really like from the Second Street design.
I was just thinking the same thing. You'd probably have 10,000 square feet of open ceilings, equal to second story.
Yeah, I was kind of gulping when I was thinking of how much room the the first example, if we were to put any open space, University of Washington Library does that, a 3-story atrium, but then it's surrounded by another 36,000 square feet of library. But if you have open space in a vertical setting, you're giving up a lot of reusable space.
And then my last point would be that if any of this discussion has maybe ruled out any of the other options, if you can narrow it down to getting estimates of costs on ones that you're still seriously considering, that just saves money. Because getting those estimates is money.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good job.
Agency members, how, are you open to some audience public comments?
Of course.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
We got a small audience. We're friendly tonight. John?
If you could come to the mic, because the transcription is not really.
John Gross, 23951 South Canby Road, South Blount Road, Canby, Oregon. I generally like to take some time to gather my thoughts and make them coherent. So I'd rather come back the next day or two with my comments.
Sure.
But I will speak off the cuff about my impressions of what I'm hearing back here. And I do appreciate your searching for an answer that is in Canby's best interest. I hope you continue to do that. A little confused about a few things. It seems like, and we do need to find numbers for all of these potential solutions before you can make any kind of intelligent decision. And I'm a little skeptical about some of the great benefits that are going to come from one thing or another until you actually get the accurate numbers. I think it's a little unfair to, well, let me put it this way. When we met with the library board in the previous workshop, we strongly recommended that you do not take concrete steps until you have a library director. I appreciate Melissa's heart and what she wants and her desire to find a solution that will improve the library. But she's not a library director, and she doesn't feel qualified to apply for the open position. So I don't think it's fair to rely on her for a library expertise decision on this. I've been involved with this whole project for longer than most of you have been on the council, and I can tell you that a second-story solution is a very bad idea. Can you make it work? Yes. Is it going to cost you a lot of money in operation costs? Yes. Can you share meeting spaces with with other city? If you look at the library schedule, the answer to that is no. It's not a very good solution. It's going to crimp library programming severely. It's not going to be a good solution for this city in terms of library services, and I hope you expect the library services to continue to improve and to grow to serve a growing community. And trying to compact that down and share that and have a second story is wrong. We've been fairly adamant as a library board that you need a single-story solution for long-term operational costs and efficiencies. I think when you do get all of the numbers, that I hope that you would continue to look at the original Second Avenue plan as a viable option. And I still believe it's in the city's best interest. I'm a little interested in the objections that we heard time and again was that you don't want to move the library away from Waite Park, but now you're looking to move it further away from Waite Park than the original Second Avenue solution that you voted against, in a large part because you didn't want to move it away from the park. So it's interesting to watch how these circular arguments move around and how things can shift dramatically and losing sight of the trail of breadcrumbs and how you got there. I'm interested in a lot of the objections in the past that have been wanting to shrink the footprint, and then towards the end of this workshop, I'm hearing a lot of excitement about this new piece of property that will allow you to have an expanded footprint. So I'm not seeing a lot of consistency in the arguments being put forth for one solution versus another. So that's why I would suggest that you, for the city's best interest, keep all of the options available and not close yourselves off from any one option that has been brought up in the past. It's interesting in some elements of Clint's plan actually take some elements away from the original First Avenue plan, which was originally approved. Was it 4 or 5 years ago? So as I've been watching this for I don't know how many years, it's one reason why I have a gray beard now, I think. It's just interesting to see how a lot of these things are going around. Additionally, I want to remind you that you've, in the past, hired some experts to look at the various options. I've been involved with this, like I say, longer than a lot of you have, and I don't feel qualified to draw the drawings and say, I think you should do this or you do that, because I'm not an expert. And I think most of you, if you search yourselves, you'd agree that you're not experts in that as well. If you want the city to be best served, I would suggest that you get some genuine expertise involved in terms of city planning, project planning, building location planning, and get the expertise of a library director that can tell you whether you're painting yourself in the corner in terms of library programming and what's best going to serve this community in terms of library services. So, I mean, those just off the cuff.
Sure.
Hope I didn't step on any toes. That's not my objective, and I appreciate, like I say, you guys looking for an answer, and I encourage you to continue getting a lot of expertise and all the information before you commit to millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer spendings.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Bob, you had your hand up?
Just a suggestion.
Sure.
So everybody stays focused. You title each of these different
I'm sorry,
ideas.
Bob, can you,
That's all.
please?
Oh,
That's up to you to,
Oh, train.
it's just a suggestion. Title them so you can stay focused.
gotcha.
Good point, yeah. Clint's idea, Brian's idea,
Greg's idea.
It would be helpful to do that.
Yeah.
Tim, I really appreciate John's comments there, and I think that he's right about consistency, that all of us could stay consistent on the positions that we had, and we'd have a divided council, wouldn't be moving forward. And I think that's what I'm looking for, is being willing to give up some of the things that I may have wanted before in order for us to achieve a majority vote on this council to proceed. So Tim and I had a conversation about this on at what point do elected officials design things versus experts. And at some point, elected officials have to have a majority vote. So it may not have a purity that some of us may have wanted in terms of a position or a philosophy or something, but that's the democratic process of compromise and working together, and I think we're doing a better job of that now than we did a year ago.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Roger, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Thank you for asking.
Okay, you betcha. And Bev, no? No? Steve?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Come on, Steve.
He'll get us later. All righty.
Well, we've got everybody in the audience.
We hit everybody tonight. Well, thank you all for a good spirited work session tonight. Thank you, Greg. I think you summed it up well.
And if I may, in order to address Haley's concerns here, if the rest of the commission would feel comfortable, in having the commission officers work with Mr. Ellis and city staff to approximate what should be researched, so we don't overscope this, so we don't have staff overworking these things. That I think we've given some general directions, and I would trust the chair and vice chair to work with the city administrator on which of these needs more work than others, because it could be that of the three options which need names, it could be that we get to fatal flaws earlier than others. And so I'm just proposing that we use the law of common sense, and that would be my encouragement, is to have Tim and Brian work with the administrator on saying, what do we have to scope out to bring back to the agency?
I guess that would be, I appreciate that. The question to you, Greg, is, I mean, or for us, is 3 too many right now?
I'd be willing to vote for less than 3, but...
I would be, I mean, if there's one overwhelming that we don't want to pursue,
No offense to the one that,
No offense to anyone.
I don't want to hurt
Greg
anybody's
brings
feelings.
it forward.
hey, again, that was the purpose of the work session, in my mind's eye, was, so, yeah, we got a call we were very disappointed to hear from. I was, before Christmas,
Yeah,
and
day
so,
before Christmas Eve. Thanks.
but, it happens.
Thanks,
And
Greg. Merry Christmas, we were pulling the plug.
well, but, no, but that's the piece, that
Yeah.
we ran the scenario, and we knew that no matter what we were going to do, if we're talking about spreading out, which is what we were talking about for Third Avenue, to be able to have the option to grow as need be, we needed property. If we decide that the other Second Avenue option, if we're naming names, is something that we do what we can now, as we were talking about on Third.
It
and
can
it's
be
still,
phased there.
and it can be phased there. And something that Greg and I talked about, we phase it, we turn some of it into initial parking lot until later time we have the funding to finish it off. So it's still meeting footprint of the initial hopes, I think, of Second Avenue. The expandability that we were talking about on Third, we still have those pieces combined in Second. If we decide, hey, Mayor, thanks, nice try, that's how it goes. I mean, hey.
Well, if I were to stick my finger in the air and say, okay, there's one of these that I'd like to be looked at first and best, it would be...
Wells Fargo.
The newest information that was brought to us today.
I would concur with that.
Yeah, I would like to, well, I agree with that because of the fact that although it is a bigger footprint than the one by the park, the land, we don't necessarily have to fill that whole footprint right now.
Right.
And we're still overall reducing the footprint of the city by consolidating all the services. So we're still quite a bit of savings there. I don't want to totally abandon the park idea though because of, like Melissa was saying, those moms that come in and always talking about the park. But I know Jamie makes a very good point about having your anchors, but I don't know if we're going to narrow down to comparing apples to apples, two options. I would say the Second Avenue, whatever you want to call that one.
well, if we're going to take
Project
away
A,
parking space
and then
from
the
the
park.
existing
Right,
business
parking
there,
is
that
always an
is the
issue.
real major squeeze.
That would have to be addressed,
Yeah.
that's true.
But Tracy brings up a good point, that even if there are some problems with that Third Avenue, it gives us something to compare
Right,
against.
right.
That instead of just having this theoretical new proposal, compare against nothing or whatever, we've got two things. And again, I don't want this overscoped until the agency makes a decision. but enough information where we can see how viable it is. But I think that's right, Tracy, that I mean, we know one of the downsides to that is parking, but what about the numbers?
Right.
Let's just give me the square footage, the cost, elevators, whatever, some basic numbers. And that would probably require some discussions on property costs, and to come back with that. I mean, there may even be a difference between property acquisition costs at one site from another.
Right.
And we may want to evaluate that as well.
Yeah, I'd like us to chase it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know, one of the solutions, if you were really to pursue the 3-story on the park, let's say, one of your solutions to your park could be to scrape the existing library and make that, you know, multi-level parking.
Parking garage.
But, I mean, that's just a one solution to the parking issue.
Right.
But that Second Avenue project down by Wells Fargo intrigues me.
And I think, Clint, when we last did our numbers, the parking garage was 22,000 per unit.
On its own, standalone parking garage.
Yeah. So that you go, I mean, the numbers are pretty easy to remember. It's 8,000 for surface parking, 22 for multi-level, and 44 for underground. But those are 4-year-old numbers, I think.
So, if I may, Chairman, maybe we can direct Greg to look at having conversation with the 2 property owners to find out if there's a dollar figure,
A range.
that they have in their mind's eye, number one. Number 2 is maybe utilizing Commissioner Roach's experience as in development. Maybe he and Greg, or he can give Greg a name of somebody that can go through and get a second opinion on Berg's cost estimates and see if we can, what thumbnail sketch can we,
I see what you're saying.
can
Yes.
we, yeah, without getting into the nuts and bolts necessarily.
Is there a
Find out
cheaper way of doing
if there's a
this?
cheaper way to price this out. Is it still 250? Can we, what does 200 do?
Get it down to 200.
You know,
And Greg and I have talked, we're gonna meet probably next week and discuss that.
Perfect.
so those are my 2, I think, takeaways right now, at least direction-wise for staff.
Is that consensus?
Yes.
Sound
Yes.
good?
Yeah, timing.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about, I mean, at some point, this is going out to the voters in
Right.
May, so we've got to
Right.
make some decisions.
Yeah.
That's more of
What we're
the
gonna put in,
ideology question.
Right, but
because
we
don't
were
have
gonna-
project Specific.
right, but that's true.
Well, I
Because
do
we're gonna
think it's.
kinda-
go
For the
ahead.
ballot, I mean, we will certainly be able to talk with the voters when we have more concrete plan.
Yeah, we need to decide before we can ask the voters to
Right,
decide.
right.
Here
Or
we go,
something
Tim.
like that.
Yeah, I would like us to move with some alacrity, because we do.
What does that mean?
Hurry up.
Quick.
It's because as we do look at a ballot measure, we do
Discernment.
need to have some concrete
Right.
plans to give to the voters as well. And I share Greg's concern about, we need to keep moving
Yep.
and move right along. You know, and John Drop brings up a good issue about technical advice, but I'm feeling like where we are in the recruiting process and such, we are going to have a library director on board in plenty of time for design
The interviews, I believe, are next week.
Next week.
next week.
It's a short list.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's too short, I don't know.
It got shorter.
I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't want to not move from tonight waiting for a library director.
Not for these
Yeah.
pieces.
Well, there's
No,
some,
not
For these
these.
pieces.
you know, there's some decisions that are technical, and there are some decisions, as you said today, that are political, where we have to take the heat and say, we're going to proceed with this. And you know, we've seen what happens trying it one way, and it was a split vote. I'd like to see us find something that we can all support.
I agree with that.
Okay. Alrighty, Greg, if you, in order to get better construction costs, that sanity check, if you need to spend some money to do that, do you need to come ask us? Are we all comfortable with him acting in his signature authority? Do we need him? Talk about that a bit.
I would think it's not going to cost a lot of money. We're going to sit down and talk about it, and I appreciate, I was going to suggest that Commissioner Rocha maybe I discuss it with him. You know, what it's going to cost for a 4-stop elevator. Maybe I can get some Matt to talk. Per floor?
No, it's tall.
Okay. And a transmission, electric, a 57
Todd's going
kV.
to save us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, he is.
A 57 kV line, what's that going to cost?
Yeah, talk to Carol.
That's a buck. Because I tried to do that once before, and it was $1 million for a block.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I said. I got a second opinion, and theirs was $1 million too, so.
You didn't like that opinion?
But those are those things that quickly maybe take a situation like
Right.
the, you know, I don't know, we'll call it the Davis option, you know,
Yeah.
quickly say, we're not gonna spend $1 million to move the power.
Yeah.
You know, we just don't have it right now to do. If we wanna put it, the money that we have set aside, if this is the direction we wanna go,
Yeah.
that, and that may not be it. You know, unless we, and again, heart of hearts wanna go, and that's not to pose the question, but again, where do we see Canby, my kids,
Yeah.
when there's no, I'm not get to enjoy the tree shade, where do we see the library being downtown? You know, we've got programs that, for me, where I was thinking, probably 15 years away from being ready to talk to us about it.
Yeah.
That's a long time to wait. You know, so I think
I think I'm okay.
You're comfortable with the
Yeah.
direction?
Yeah.
Is the agency comfortable with Brian and I working with Greg?
Yep.
Okay, we want to keep moving. I'm very open to calling meetings sooner than later.
Yep.
If we can get information.
Yeah.
Work with
Yeah.
Brian and the mayor and our recorder to get those on.
We have an extra Wednesday this month, too.
We actually do have an extra Wednesday.
I'm sorry, but Wednesdays are already on my life, so I figure,
you do have
Get
extra
used to it.
ones.
schedule them on Wednesday.
Yeah.
December was nice, actually.
So we got a 4th and a 5th that we can work
So
with.
you're comfortable, Greg?
Yeah, and if you go to the Plaza idea on Third, I'm gonna need a note to take to Rotary. Because they have 3-on-3
That's right.
basketball there.
Oh, my
I'm
goodness.
gonna need a note.
There you go. And I've written down a bunch of the questions that have come up tonight.
Well, I think
for you.
that the loss of parking is gonna ixnay that idea.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it sounds nice in theory, because it's by the park, but yeah, you take away parking spots,
Yeah.
you think we're having people squat in the parking now.
All righty, agency, thank you. It's been a good night. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank you all for good
Jim, you all for
discussion.
hanging out and
Thank you, audience,
Thank you,
for hanging
audience.
out and participating tonight. I need a nod of consensus, not a motion, but just a nod of consensus to adjourn. Everybody okay?
Yes, we are.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Canby. We'll see you next time.